Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear students in grade 9, prep 3, language schools and experimental schools. أعزائي طلبة وطالبات الصف الثالث الإعدادي في مدارس اللغات ومدارس اللغات التجريبية. Today, inshallah, I will introduce to you a new video about the main characters and introduction of the story of the first term and A Tale of Two Cities. We will start with introduction and the main characters. If we want to talk about the background and introduction of the story, A Tale of Two Cities was written in 1859. It is the only historical novel that Charles Dickens wrote. It is based on the French Revolution. In the novel, Dickens shows the poor conditions of the poor peasants in France during that period. كان بيعرض الحالة الفقيرة أو حالة الفقر التي كان يعيش فيها الفلاحين في هذه الحقبة. He also shows the struggle of the poor against the nobles of France at that time. أيضا كان بيعرض للصراع ما بين الطبقات الفقيرة وطبقة النبلاء في فرنسا في هذا التوقيت. The title of the novel is very significant for the following reasons. The two cities that are meant in the title are London and Paris. The two cities had many features in common at that time. Both cities suffered from poor conditions, oppression, poverty, political unsettlement, and crime. يبقى المدينتين لندن وباريس في هذه الحقبة التي كتب عنها تشارلز ديكنز هذه الرواية، كان الناس بتتعرض لكثير من ظروف الفقر والطغيان وعدم الاستقرار السياسي إلى جانب انتشار الجريمة. The characters and the incidents of the novel are in rapid transfer between London and Paris all the time. The actions that take place in London have their effects on the people of Paris and vice versa. And now we will start to talk about the main characters. As you know that any story has main characters or major characters and minor or secondary characters. The main characters of the story, the first one is Dr. Manette. Dr. Manette is the father of Lucy Manette, wrongly imprisoned in France for 18 years. سجن ظلما أو بطريق الخطأ في سجن الباستيل لمدة 18 عاما. He is brought back from the brink of madness. كان على لما أخرجوه من السجن كان على شفا الجنون by his adoring daughter, whom he treasures above all else. Though he is eventually freed and makes his home in England with his daughter, where he resumes his medical practice, he is still prone to occasional relapses of a trance-like state in which he does not remember who he is and can only make shoes. على الرغم من خروجه من السجن، لما خرج من السجن كان في حالة مزرية، لكنه كان بعد كده تعافى واستراد صحته وبدأ يمارس حياته كطبيب مرة أخرى، لكنه كان أيضا عرضة لبعض الانتكاسات التي كان يعاني فيها من الغيبوبة وعودته إلى المهنة التي امتهنها في داخل السجن وهي صناعة الأحذية. It is the condition in which Lucy found him after his years of imprisonment, and the relapses occur when he is in a state of distress. كان في حالة من اليأس. عندما يمر بحالات اليأس كانت تأتي له حالات الغيبوبة. His unjust imprisonment eventually works in his favor when he is held up as a hero by the revolutionaries, a status that enables him to get his son-in-law, Charles Darnley, freed from prison. But that enables him to get his son-in-law, Charles Darnley, freed from prison, but only once. When Darnley is re-imprisoned, the doctor's status cannot help him. Dr. Manette reverts back to his trance-like state. دكتور مانيت استغل شهرته كسجين سابق في الباستيل لإخراج زوج بنته تشارلز دارني من السجن. طبعا كان كأشهر سجين في الباستيل، لكن في المرة الثانية لم يستطع، ولذلك عاد مرة أخرى لحالة اليأس والغيبوبة التي كان يمر بها. لوسي مانيت. Dr. Manette's kind, loving, and beautiful daughter. She helped bring him back from the brink of insanity. After his unjust imprisonment, Lucy evokes deep love from those around her, including her father, Charles Darnley, who eventually marries her, تزوجها, Mr. Stryver, Miss Pross, and perhaps most of all سيدني كارتون كانت تثير مشاعر الحب لكل من حولها. She cares deeply for her father and marries Charles only after she reassures her father that the marriage will not separate her from him at all. Her beauty and tenderness evoke the last sentiments of real love and emotion in Sydney Carton. رقتها ومشاعر الحب أثارت سيدني كارتون الذي كان يبادلها الحب بدون ما يعلنه لها. As Lucy is one of the last people on earth to treat him with sympathy and kindness, his deep unspoken love, حب غير معلن, for her leads him to commit an extremely selfless and courageous act on her behalf. حبه لها الغير معلن هو اللي خلاه يقوم بعمل بطولي في نهاية القصة، وهو إنقاذ زوجها من الإعدام. Charles Darnley, the son of corrupt French aristocrats, ابن من أبناء الطبقة الأرستقراطية الفاسدة، لكنه كان يختلف عنهم. Darnley flees France to escape the shame of his family's name, and to forsake his role in the oppression of the French peasants. كان ضد الظلم الذي تمارسه أسرته تجاه الفلاحين الفقراء. Settles in England, where he is unsuccessfully tried for treason. اتهم ظلما بالخيانة. Returns to France at the most dangerous period of the revolution in order to save a friend who is unjustly imprisoned. Is eventually tried twice. حُكم مرتين في فرنسا for crimes against the Republic. After the revolution, marries Lucy Manette and has a daughter with her. He is deeply committed to both Lucy and her father, remaining committed to his family and his passionate dislike of corrupt aristocracy. كرهه للفساد الارستقراطي. He is one of the most morally upright characters in the book. هو واحد من أكثر الشخصيات المستقيمة أخلاقيا في الرواية. Sydney Carton. Sydney Carton is a lawyer and assistant to the Lion, Mr. Stryver. Carton is known as Stryver's less successful jackal. The jackal هو الشخص الذي يخدم الآخرين ولا يخدم نفسه. He is crude, frequently drunk, and often melancholy. He was still a lonely man. From the beginning, he appeared careless, untidy, ill, reckless, but we are impressed by his quickness and observation during Darnley's trail that saves Darnley's life. He was a lonely man who cared for no one, and no one cared for him. He was a man of great powers of the mind, but could not use these powers for his own sake. لم يستخدم ذكاءه لخدمة نفسه. He's capable of feeling deep, immense, and tragic life that others cannot see. His one moment of grace comes in a single selfless act that ultimately renders him the hero of the book. He gave real example of self-sacrifice. هو أعطى مثال جيد للتضحية بالنفس في صالح من أحبها سرا، وهي لوسي مانيت، لإنقاذ زوجها من الإعدام. Jervis Lorry, a long-time banker at Tillson's and fiercely loyal family friend to the Manets, had overseen Dr. Manet's affairs before his imprisonment, was in charge of that account when Lucy became aware of Tillson's, when it was assumed as a child that she was an orphan, told Lucy that her father was alive and brought her to meet him for the first time. And honest, he was honest, trustworthy, محل ثقة, and compassionate man. Mr. Lorry held the institution of Tillson's and the Manet family above all else in his life. Madame Devange, a cruel, vengeance-seeking agent of the revolution. مدام ديفانج كانت امرأة دائما تسعى إلى الانتقام. Agent of the revolution كانت تمثل الثورة. مدام ديفانج spends her days knitting registers of names، تغزل أسماء الناس التي سوف تعدمهم عندما تقوم الثورة. Of names of people she has marked for death. Married to Ernest Devange, owner of a wine shop in Saint-Antoine, Madame Devange is utterly devoid of human sympathy. كانت تخلو تماما من المشاعر الإنسانية أو العطف الإنساني, and is single-minded in her zeal to have Charles Darnley executed. كان لديها حماس غير عادي ورغبة غير عادية لإعدام تشارلز دارني. Despite his proven innocence، على الرغم من إثبات براءته of any crimes، and despite her husband's loyalty to and compassion for Dr. Manet، ولاء وحبه لدكتور مانيت. Her desire for vengeance stems from the murders of her brother and brother-in-law and the torture of her family at the hands of the Marquis Saint-Evremont and his brother Charles Darnley's uncle and father. سعيها للانتقام كان من التعذيب والمرارة التي شاهدتها عندما قتلت أختها وزوج أختها، وبعد ذلك مات أبيها ومات أمها. كل هذا كان بسبب ما فعله إيفرموند وأخيه في أسرتها، ولذلك تولد عندها حب شديد للانتقام والقضاء على هذه الأسرة ومن ينتمي إليها. She is so filled with hatred toward them that she wants to wipe out Darnley's entire family including the Manets. كانت تريد أن تمحو الأسرة بالكامل حتى من ينتمي إليهم أو الذي انتمى إليهم بصلة النسب وهو دكتور مانيت. She is the book's clearest example of how the oppressed Byzantines became the oppressors during the revolution. كانت تمثل مثال للفلاحين الذين ظلموا ثم بعد ذلك أصبحوا هم أنفسهم ظالمين بعد قيام الثورة الفرنسية. The Marquis Evremond Charles Darnay's cruel and corrupt uncle, a French aristocrat by birth, the Marquis of Vermont, has no trace of pity and despises the peasants of France. كان يحتقر الفلاحين. Born into wealth, he believes that his family was meant to enjoy a higher station in life than the lower classes. He tells his nephew, أخبر ابن أخيه Charles Darnay, that he plans to keep the oppressed masses in their place as long as he's alive. يستمر في ظلمه ليهم طالما عايش. He is eventually assassinated, اغتيل, by one of those peasants, the action that starts the revolution. وده كان بداية شرارة للثورة. Monsieur Rivange, former domestic of Dr. Manet's prior to the doctor's imprisonment. كان مساعد لدكتور مانت قبل دخوله السجن في عيادته. Cares for Dr. Manet immediately after the doctor's release, married to Madame Devarge. Though he is fond of Dr. Manet, he secretly fears his wife and does not object when she demands the denunciation of Darnay. عندما اتهم Darnay. He is also an important leader of the revolution who discovered Dr. Manet's letter hidden in the chimney of his old cell in the Bastille. Minor characters. Now we will talk about minor characters. الشخصيات الثانوية. Miss Pross, woman who cared for Lucy from the time she was orphaned, sassy and tart-tongued. كان لديها لسان وقح ولاذع. She is fiercely protective and loving of Lucy. Roger Cly. Roger Cly, former servant of Charles Darnay, he testified شهد against Darnay in England and later faked his own death. ادعى نفسه ميتا to avoid persecution, ليتجنب الإعدام, in his home country before fleeing to France to work as a spy for England. من الشخصيات السيئة في القصة. جون بارسرد أحد الشخصيات السيئة أيضا. سولومون بروس. ميس بروس no account brother, شخص لا يعتمد عليه، أخ لا يعتمد عليه, who testified against Charles Darnay in England before fleeing to France. هرب إلى فرنسا to avoid persecution in England. Worked as a spy for England. عمل كجاسوس لإنجلترا in France and was blackmailed by Sidney Carton into aiding Carton in his final scheme. استغلوا سيدني كارتون لإخراج تشارلز دارني من السجن. Mr. Stryver, lawyer known as the Lion, a long-time friend of Sidney Carton, he successfully defended Charles Darnay at his treason trial in England. Stryver became a frequent visitor of the Manets and announced his intention to marry Lucy, but she refused him. Jerry Cruncher, a messenger of Tillyson's and Mr. Lorry's assistant, comical yet possesses a mean streak, such as when he beats his wife for praying, with which irritates him, supports his income from Tillyson's with occasional work as a grave robber, يسرق المقابر. His nocturnal activities eventually play a critical role in the book. The woodcutter Mender of Rhodes, a revolutionary who works with the Devarges. Jack 3, a member of the corrupt tribunal that sentenced Charles Darnay to execution. He is bloodthirsty, محب للدم, and vengeful sidekick to Madame Devarge and the Vengeance. Lucy, daughter of Charles Darnay and Lucy Manet. The Vengeance, المنتقمين, friend of Madame Devarge and fellow revolutionary. Monsieur Gabelle, tax collector who is persecuted by the revolutionaries in France. makes an appeal to Darnley to help free him from prison. His letter brings Charles to France, where his life is immediately threatened. Jerry Young, Jerry Cruncher's son. Mrs. Cruncher, Jerry's Cruncher's wife, her insistent praying of Jerry's behalf enrages him through he learns to appreciate it later. Gaspard, his young son, is run over by the marquee carriage as it speeds through town. ابنه هو الذي دهسته عربة إيفرمونت في بداية القصة. In response, the marquis flicks Gaspard a coin, showing a complete disregard for Gaspard's son's life. Gaspard later assassinates the marquis, اغتاله, and is then captured and killed himself. Hotel support for Gaspard grows throughout these events. These three deaths are the beginning of the French Revolution. That's enough for today, and till we meet again in chapter 1, inshallah. I wish you have liked the video. Don't forget to share the video and put like. Thank you very much. Till we meet again, I wish you the best of luck. Thank you.